very distinctive, challenging and precarious manner of intimidation. In 1999, the territorial integrity of the Indian nation was violated by Pakistan in the icy heights of the Kargil sector, with an aim to pressurize the Srinagar to Leh National Highway and force India to throw away the Siachen Glacier. The Indian Army responded by positioning superior ground forces in a phenomenal and record-breaking effort to teach the enemy a lesson by launching Operation Vijay. The initial targets chosen to be cleared were the Tiger Hill complex and Tololing Ridge, the deepest incursion of enemy and closest to the National Highway. On 23rd May, 18 Grenadier and 1 Naga regiment of the Indian Army assaulted the enemy on Tololing Ridge, but accurate and deadly enemy fire brought the Indian attack to a grinding halt by the 24th. It was at this juncture the IAF was called in to commence its close air support campaign in Kargil. The dedicated helicopter gunships of the IAF were not able to operate effectively in the rarefied air of the Kargil sector. Service ceiling of heavy-duty gunship helicopter Mi-35 was limited to 10,000 feet, while the occupied heights at Kargil were at 15,000. In a first of its kind, a decision was taken by the IAF to convert its troop-carrying workhorse, the Mi-17 helicopter, into an attack gunship. It was the only IAF helicopter capable of operating between 10 to 18,000 feet with some manner of ordnance. At those heights, it could carry 4 UB-32 rocket pods with S-5 57mm rockets. Keeping in mind the envisaged role, Mi-17 helicopters of 129HU, the Nubra Warriors, and 152HU, the Mighty Armor, were inducted into Srinagar Air Base during mid-May. This offensive component was commanded by a tough and experienced veteran of the Siachen Glacier Operation Tour, Wing Commander A.K. Sinha. They had arguably the most difficult task of the air assault operation to undertake, move at precariously low operational speeds while straining their machines to hang on in thin air, face the gauntlet of enemy anti-aircraft effort and stay focused enough to engage and destroy the enemy. Some would say that their way led to certain death. At Tololing, the enemy comprised mainly of soldiers from Pakistan 4 and 6 Northern Light Infantry, supported by elements of the elite Special Service Group Commandos. They were well equipped for a protracted campaign and geared to survive high-altitude warfare. Their formidable arsenal consisted of Dushka and KPVT heavy machine guns. All Pakistani fortified Sangar complexes had at least a couple of these belt-fed guns which were formidable anti-aircraft weapons, beside being infantry killing machines. However, the most feared weapons in the Pakistani arsenal were the man-portable surface-to-air missiles, MANPADs. These were the Stinger and Anza II. Operation Safed Sagar commenced with true grit, guts and glory in the early mornings of the 26th of May. The IAF commenced full-fledged rocket and bomb attacks against enemy positions, starting with MiG-21 and MiG-27 fighter jets, shortly followed by the Mi-17s. The Indian Army soldiers fighting on the icy heights had a new savior. The air reverberated with the radio calls of "Rockets away!" The air attacks followed a similar profile on 27th May, and that's when the first of the SAMs were encountered over Tololing. The Indian helicopter survival lay in the infrared flares being integrated, which were used to deflect the heat-seeking SAMs from their targets. But the question was there enough supply of the same to equip all the Mi-17s? At 0200 hours on the 28th of May, preparation and arming of the 4 Mi-17s for the planned assault for the morning had been done. Nubra 1, 2, 3 and 4, a 4-aircraft formation, was at the launch pad. The target was point 5140, the most well-defended enemy-held position, with covering anti-aircraft fire zones from the Tololing top as well as point 4590. Wing Commander Sinha was Nubra leader. However, Nubra formation had a problem. The IR flare dispensing system on board Nubra 3 was not functional. Sinha advised the pilot of Nubra 3, Flight Lieutenant S. Muhilan, to stay on the ground. But a charged-up and overtly brave Muhilan was not the one to back out. The flight commander of 152HU, squadron leader Rajiv Pundhir, volunteered to fly as the co-pilot along with Muhilan. The whole formation vowed to deliver their most devastating blow right in the enemy's lair at height 5140. Their fighting ethos were to be tested soon. The four-ship Nubra formation took off as planned, and the pilots lined up in staggered positions to proceed to their targets. The helicopters would carry out trailing attacks with time between the attack run of each helicopter. Also, attacks from different directions were to be carried out. They had, however, been spotted well in advance by the Pakistani defenders. The stream of hot lead followed the attack run of Nubra 1, who, unshaken, released his salvo of rockets on the Pakistani positions. The enemy started shooting off SAMs, and Sinha spotted a couple of them which flew past him due to the deception of the IR flares and sheer good luck. He ducked towards the safety zone of the Bimbat Nala and saw Nubra 2 move in and carry out a well-executed rocket attack. Sinha was, however, worried about Muhilan and Pundhir in Nubra 3 as he saw a barrage of SAMs flying around in the air. Nubra 3 continued onto the target, dodging the initial fusillade of fire and a couple of SAMs which missed the helicopter. Over the target, Nubra 3 fired all its complement of rockets, which landed over the target in an effective manner. The NLI commander at point 5140 shouted for all SAM launchers to fire at will. The SAMs kept flying around Nubra 3 and missing them. It seemed for a moment that they had cheated death in the absence of any flares to distract the heat-seeking SAMs. But then, just as Nubra 3 banked to lose altitude, it was struck by a Stinger missile. Nubra 3 was engulfed in flames and hit the valley floor before breaking apart. Meanwhile, Nubra 4 carried out his attack and ducked in to commence the exit maneuver. Sinha watched the whole scene in grim silence and saw his worst fears coming true. As he radioed the formation to extricate as planned, his mind was overwhelmed with grief and the realization of the sacrifice and selfless bravery of the Nubra 3 crew. The sacrifice of Nubra 3 did not go in vain, as the Mi-17 attacks had shaken the Pakistani defences on the Tololing Ridge and helped the Indian Army to commence a fresh campaign of dislodging attacks against the Pakistanis. The Indian Army captured all enemy positions on the Tololing Ridge by the 17th of June 1999 in praiseworthy assaults. The Indian Air Force stopped all Mi-17 gunship operations in light of their vulnerability in the heightened SAM environment. For the record,